Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute. Welcome to the 2019 State of Africatown African American African Diaspora Gathering. My name is Tim Lennon. I'm the Executive Director of Langston, the main programming entity here in the building. Our mission is to strengthen and advance community through Black arts and culture. Our vision is cultivating Black brilliance, and I cannot imagine a better manifestation of Black brilliance than the faces I'm seeing in this crowd this morning. So thank you, and give yourselves a hand for being here today. I want to acknowledge especially the elders in the room and the youth in the room, our future elders. It just fills my heart to see all these young faces in the front row here, to see so many folks on whose shoulders I stand and we all stand here in terms of our elders, and thank you very much sincerely from the bottom of my heart. A couple of notes on housekeeping before we get this show started proper. There are restrooms and a water fountain in the building here, all the way at the top of the stairs behind the AV booth here. If you need, feel free to head up anytime. If you need an ADA accessible bathroom, just head out through the doors here and take the elevator down to floor 2, and you get sorted there. It is a real treat to be here. I've been in this role just about a year at this point, and the first thing I did in this role was welcome this crowd to this event, and so it definitely feels like a full circle moment. The presenters you're going to see today really represent the best and brightest of our community, and certainly the future not only of the Central District and Africatown, but of Seattle as a whole. The work that the folks you're going to meet today are doing are really moving our community forward, are moving our city forward, and are really an example to the rest of the nation of what we can do when we work together in communities. So I'm really grateful to be a witness to all this alongside of you. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our MC, Dr. McCoy.
Hello, I'm Dr. Renee McCoy, and I'm here for this is the 5th of the 6th time that I've been here. And I am fortunate enough to have been invited to be MC. And I think the reason they let me do this is because I'm from Detroit, and I know how to move Black folks around, right? Right? So I told someone earlier that I was from Detroit, and they said they wouldn't hold it against me. And I will get back at him later on, because I get to introduce him. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful time that we have here. This is the one time that I feel that I'm home, absolutely home, and I'm in with my family, and it just feels so warm. There's a point at which, when you become a person of a certain age, you get cold. You know, you get cold, and yet every time for the last 5 years, or for 5 out of the 6 years, when I've come to this event and I've stood at this mic, I got warm. I got warm, and I'm going to tell you that the reason that I missed that 1 year was because I had pancreatic cancer. And so I am here, healed by the warmth of all of these years. 8% of the people who have pancreatic cancer live. Only 8%. Now, what's the percentage of Black folks in Seattle? Anybody? Round about 8%. Yeah, I'm stretching it. Some of us take up twice as much. So we can claim 8%. So I stand before you, a woman who's healed, and what that means in the church year, we're talking about this thing called Epiphany. And Epiphany means that, you know, it's something illuminating. It's something that's just, oh my goodness. And so we are, as we start this year, we are starting off in a spirit of epiphany. We are going to illumine this year. We just need to know what we did last year so that we'll know where we're going this year. One thing I want us to do is to get out of this thing of being healed, because in order to be healed, it means you had to have been sick. I can talk about being healed from pancreatic cancer because I was sick with it. But we don't need to be healed from being black. We don't need to be healed. We need to be celebrated. We need to be empowered. We need to be lifted up and move forward. And on that note, that's what today is about. Today is about us finding out where we've been so we can know how to get to where we're going a little quicker. This is our Sankofa moment, if you know what I'm saying. And so, all you speakers, you got 5 minutes. Because after 5 minutes, then we talk about being healed. My job is to keep you on point. I need for you to, as participants, if you need to know more, that's what the rest of this year is about. Now, at some point, we're going to need to speed things up. We need to take things out. I'm going to call folks forward. The mayor has requested that, she's told us that she's got a very, very important event to be at. Actually, it's a memorial service, and we want to honor that. So it may come to a place where we sort of chill out for a minute and let the mayor come and say what she's going to say, because it's important for the mayor to tell us how she plans to respond to the Spirit of Africatown. I'm going to ask you to just keep a spirit of peace in this place, a spirit of joy in this place. We're not broken. We didn't come here to get fixed. We're not sick. We didn't come here to be healed. Now, everything else around us might be sick. Everything else around us might be broken. But we are not broken. We're here to celebrate our wholeness. We're here to celebrate our beauty. We're here to celebrate our power. We're here to celebrate our epiphany, our ability to illumine the world with our spirit of life, our spirit of blackness, 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 blackness. Oh my, oh my, what a black day it is. Let us celebrate this black day. It's wonderful. I think, you know, Treyana, it's the first time I saw somebody say, well, let's stand for the Black National Anthem, and that move you made, you said, let's stand. Now, that's what I'm talking about. We got to get our pastors, when we stand for the Black National Anthem, we tell them this is how you start. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to bring up the Reverend, the Honorable Dawn Mason. This wouldn't be an event without the Honorable Dawn Mason. And I told Dawn, I said, well, you got 5 minutes. She said, I don't need that much. We'll see.
Welcome, everybody. And as always, you look so beautiful. This is so wonderful to have this multi-generational event every year, because, and we always have it around Martin Luther King's birthday, because this is the dream. And everyone knows about his dream, but he wanted us to be very forcefully and fearlessly and courageously to stay together and come together to build our nation. And because when those who were enslaved continue to build, because we're the original builders of the United States, yes, we are. And this land that we stand on was taken and stolen from the original people or what we call the Native Americans now, and we were stolen from Africa. And that's something that we need to make sure every child reads that book. Mayor Durkan, sitting next to Evelyn, who's sitting next to you, has a book called The Stolen One. It's a children's book, but it's a wonderful one to read with adults. You're holding it now. We just voted in millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars for the education of children so we can shrink the gap. We can shrink the gap when we add. Everyone now knows in research we have eliminated the history of slavery, the real history. We teach the things like, yes, we know about the Underground Railroad. Yes, we know about Nat Turner. We know about the uprisings. But what was the trauma? We don't know the trauma. And this book, in a very child's way, teaches the trauma. I expect every child in Seattle Public Schools to have a copy of this book. We just voted so many millions of dollars and for property tax. And this is every child. Every child. White children need to read this too. So anyway, I just wanted to put that in there. And then I want the mayor's eyes to focus on our children. These are the children that Seattle Public Schools says they cannot educate, and you're going to see them brilliant. I want you to say, I saw them when they're with their own people. What is it that we're doing that has them suspended? What is it that we are doing that creates a gap? Seattle Times wrote that there is a child that stays in Seattle Public Schools over the years ends up 3.5 years behind a white child. Not acceptable. Not acceptable. There's no reason for that to happen. That the gap has gone on for 70 years, but to also say is that the solutions we've come up with have not worked. So then we knew that. We knew it 6 years ago when we started gathering. We knew it 8 years ago when we came up with Africatown. Africatown is about being self-directed. Do not seek outside of our accomplishments to find anyone to advise you, whether you're African American, the mayor, or whoever you are, the police chief. Welcome, Carmen. So speaking of that, I have grandsons. Their grandmothers tell me that these are just still little children. They fear. They start fearing. Miles is 5 years old, and Anissa says she's so afraid when he grows up that he'll have some kind of altercation with the police, because he already has altercations with her. But anyway, he's just a child. He should feel safe. He should know that a traffic stop is just a traffic stop. People sometimes speed, but for us, it's not speeding. The light was out on your license plate. Now this is an opportunity to reach for your license, and your insurance is always in the glove box, and they say they reached in the glove box. Well, you told me to. Now I'm dead. Now, we don't have that in Seattle because we have had sanctions. Things are better, right, Mayor? The police don't do that. And then she hired Carmen, and we know Carmen is from among us. So when we hire from among us, then we become safe, because Carmen's going to make sure that also our children aren't breaking the law, and that they understand that there's consequences. And that's what our educators do, and see how it all comes together. With that, when I drove across the black, red, and green stripes on the street on 20th, I knew I was home. It was almost emotional. We're into Africatown now. I felt safer. I felt less traumatic. I'm going to tell you that First Place is doing so incredibly well. I want to thank, I think Andres Mantel's here from the city, who with Department of Neighborhoods, who partnered with us to bring the building up. We had a leaky roof. We have Carolyn Brown, who was with Zion Prep Academy, has brought Zion Prep closed. That was a loss of black education. We brought her over, and she brought the whole Zion Prep Early Learning team to First Place. So we continue to have an African American Early Learning Center with a contract with the city. I'm told it's now one of the best early learning centers that Seattle is funding, and we've become a model. It was a great turnaround from what we heard about First Place many years ago. And I thank the community for believing that we should own a building, we should own housing. We have the Omari Village there. See, it has our names on it. Deborah Sullivan has started the Ashe Academy, and isn't that right? For those who don't know, Ashe means so be it. Like Dr. McCoy say, look at us, here we are. so be it. So we're like the phoenix rising up out of the ashes. So the they, whoever the they is, that thought they could dissipate us in the Central District, they need to take a look. So my time's up. Thank you for being here.
Like the phoenix coming back. Okay, we got a little change in our program. You know, we began Black and African American rituals with pouring of libations, and we kind of forgot. So, Dr. Marcia Arunga is going to come forward and pour libations for us.
I see water. I see a plant. I see everything, Dr. McCoy. Thank you. Good morning, Seattle. All right. My job is a very simple one. Dr. McCoy has already mentioned Sankofa. And the Sankofa bird is a bird that flies forward, but its head is always turned back. And the parable of the Akan people of West Africa is that in order for you to know where you are going, you must always look back and understand where you have come from. And so in the tradition of Sankofa and of our people whenever we gather, it is important that we remember that we stand on the shoulders of people that come before us. So as we pour libation, I ask you to just settle your minds and your hearts right here in this room so that we can do the very important work we've come to do. And as we stand here together with one heart and one mind, we want to acknowledge that we are on the land of the Duwamish people, that we give thanks and praise for the time that we have been here, that we are visitors here. This is not our place. We have come here at their expense. And so we want to honor the Duwamish people. I ask you to say Ashe in the tradition of the Yoruba people. And Ashe is a word that says, I'm speaking truth. Truth is being spoken. So I hope you'll help me by saying Ashe. We pour libation this morning not as a religious ritual, but as a ritual for community that draws community together. For people who were told to forget the past, leave that alone. You're from another place, you're here now, and you're a new people. But we know we are not a new people, we are an ancient people. And that we come from a place and a tradition where even the oldest universities we know of were created. The universities in Timbuktu that still stand, Sankore that still stands, our people were scholars. Ashe. Dr. John Henrik Clarke, one of our great scholars and historians, has said that if the Atlantic Ocean was to dry up today, it would reveal a trail of bones that stretch from Africa to the Americas. And those would be the bones of our ancestors in ships where people were thrown overboard for expediency. And when they were thrown overboard, we remember that these are still our ancestors, the ones who didn't make it. Ashe. And as Dr. Mason has said this morning, that if indeed we were stolen, it has been several times, we were stolen out of Africa, and that it was on a faithful day that our people were minding their business, tending to their fields, caring for the young and the old, when the people came and took them out of their land and took them to a new land that they built. That's not just America. We can look at the whole continent of South America, of North America. Throughout the world, our people have dwelled, and we are the pyramid builders. We have built many institutions, and so we stand here as a proud people today that we continue to build institutions, and that's why we are here. We are leaning in. And so in the interest of our people who we know just from Seattle, those whose shoulders we stand on, let us call them today. People like D. Charlene Williams, Ashe. Ernestine Anderson. Call their names. Vicki Williams. Willie Williams. Ashe. Ashe. Yes. Ashe. Eddie Tate, Geneva Tate, Don Brooks. Call their names. Yes. Ashe. 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 Charlena Lyles. Ashe. And so, in the words of Dr. Bernice Johnson Reagan, who says, to the spirit of those named and unnamed who have stood and struggled before us and beside us, we offer this libation. We offer this praise. Ashe, ashe, ashe. And so it is.
There's a place in Detroit called the Charles H. Wright Museum, and it's an African-American museum. And I can remember going there, and they have, one of the exhibits that they have is a life-size exhibit of the slave boats and how they were mashed together. And I remember going there, and I looked at this exhibit and the signs of the exhibits of black people in chains. And for some reason, all of a sudden, I began to weep. I'm an anthropologist by training, and there's this belief that there's this DNA that we have, this cultural memory that all of us have, that we will always be connected by that peace, that peace. And so when you feel yourself saying ashe in celebration, feel yourself also feeling pride in what we've lost, and sorrow for what we've lost, and determination for what we're bringing back. So, our next presenter is Dian Ferguson, and she's going to present our Elders of Distinction Awards. Dian?
Good morning. It's so wonderful to be here amongst everybody, and I think it's wonderful to always be reminded how important the past is. Sometimes we just think about what's current and what's now. And so I am happy to be able to share a little bit about the Elders of Distinction that will be honored today. I'm going to put on my glasses. Something has been written, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and then I'm going to talk also on a personal level because I have the honor of knowing both of the Elders of Distinction. First, I want to talk about Muriel Softli. And I can think about that I had a wonderful school nurse. When I was in 6th grade, I would just sort of try to skip class so that I could go talk to my school nurse just to hear what she had to say. And Muriel Softli is in that same context. For 40 years, she has been a Seattle public school nurse. And then after she retired from Seattle public schools, she didn't really just stop doing what she was doing. She continued and went to First Place to be the school nurse at First Place. School nurses are important because they're the ones that sometimes let you know that you have lice in your hair, that if you continue eating all the bad foods that you're eating, there's consequences for the onset of childhood diabetes. I had a friend that went to the school nurse and found out she had a curve in her back, and her parents hadn't noticed that before, but it was the school nurse that diagnosed that. And so for 40 years and more, Muriel has been the school nurse that young people, middle school people, older people looked up to. She went to the University of Washington. She served with distinction there. She also was one of the early founders of the, I always am bad with names. People say, Diane, can you learn to say people's names right and pronounce it correctly? So she is a member of the sorority of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She's also an active member of the First African Methodist Episcopal Church. She is a founding member of the Mary Mahoney Nurses. And that's really important because not only has she been a school nurse, but she continues to make sure through scholarship efforts and other things that other young people, older people, whomever want to be nurses, have scholarship money so that they can go to school and also continue that wonderful tradition of being a school nurse. So I would just like to say this about Muriel. As an elder of distinction, she is recognized as one who can be trusted for the wisdom and the legacy of giving and caring for others. Her knowledge of public health, nursing, and modeling the values of good health and the well-being to make sure that all of us, not only in the African American community, but all of us can benefit from the history and culture of being trusted, being distinguished, and making sure that in terms of health and well-being, we're always taken care of. So Muriel, would you come forward so that we can honor you? And present to you this plaque that says, 2019, the African American African Gathering presents to you the Elders of Distinction Legacy Award in honor for your contributions and leadership and cultural excellence.
Thank you. Back in 1958, as a young nurse coming to Seattle, working at King County Hospital, now Harborview Hospital, I heard about schools needing nurses. It was time when they were beginning to integrate schools. And so I applied and I was accepted, and as Dian said, I spent 42 years in the district and then went over to first place. And in between times when I had the summers off and the weekends off, I was down at McCoy Air Force Base, and I was there as a flight nurse. And I spent 26 years as a flight nurse, retiring as a lieutenant colonel. And that's for the kids' information. I want them to know they can do anything they set their minds on. So anything they set their minds on, and they're capable. And the doors are wide open now, so it makes it much easier. And after leaving first place, I went back to my love, and that's medical missionary work overseas. And I was in Malawi last year, and the year before in Kenya and Malawi, and doing medical missionary work. So those are things that if they get the right background, they can go anywhere in the world and do anything they want to do. And so I didn't plan on saying that, but I saw so many kids in the audience. I thought they needed encouragement. Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you.
All right. So our next elder of distinction is Dr. Norward Brooks. And Dr. Norward Brooks, you can clap. He has done so many things that when I looked over his resume and some of the things that he has accomplished, I was like, oh my goodness, I know that I have to do better in life because I didn't even face the obstacles that he did, and he accomplished so much. I know him because I've always admired him in terms of his political work and his advocacy. I know he's also a good businessman. But he has a long career. He headed the King County Election Department, and from there he was appointed by Governor Dan Evans and again by Governor John Spellman as an Employment Security Commissioner. He used his leadership position, because sometimes we have leadership positions and then we get all stuck up and everything and we don't help anybody and we just collect our checks. But in every leadership position that he's been in, after he left, the place was better off because of him. So when he was in employment security as a commissioner, he made sure that African Americans increased their employment opportunities. At one point, we were like at a low of 5%, and then when he became the commissioner, African American employment went up by 20%. Now that's quite an accomplishment. I remember Dr. Brooks because when I was in graduate school, I think if I'm not mistaken, he was a Republican. And so I remember him because I studied public policy and administration, and I only knew one other Republican. And so I found him fascinating because he was the comptroller for the city of Seattle. And when he was the comptroller of the city of Seattle, we were accountable for our money. We knew where our money was going, and under his leadership, I remember that we had a surplus in the Seattle budget. I don't know if we have a surplus anymore since I've been in Seattle, but I knew when he was there that we had a surplus in the budget. And you know how when sometimes it seems like when organizations and businesses are in trouble and nobody else wants the tough job, they go find a black person to do the work. So, Seattle Vocational Institution was in trouble. They wanted to close it down. It wasn't working. And somebody said, go get Dr. Norward Brooks. He'll be able to bring that vocational institution up to par, make sure that the young people and the older people and everybody who goes there graduates. And so they brought him in, and that's exactly what happened. In the heights of its success, there were 4,000 students who were getting degrees and they were graduating. I have so many friends who went to and got their secretarial courses and all kinds of things. So he made that happen. The other thing that we know about Dr. Brooks is that he is a Mason, and that's a very important part of his life as well. He is a 33rd degree Mason and part of the Prince Hall Masonic J.C. Logan Lodge. He is also a lifetime awardee of the Southern University. And I also know him because I go to First AME Church, and I know that he's been a trustee for a long time. And because of that, First AME is better off because of that. So I'm just going to wind this down by saying, if anybody is the epitome of accomplishments and with service, and I have to add one more thing, because you know how I talked about when people are losing something, they get a group together of people, busy people, because they know they can get something accomplished. Well, the Martin Luther King Jr. School was going to be taken over by some other people in the neighborhood, and a committee was formed. And do I have to tell you who was a part of that committee, who made sure that the community kept the Martin Luther King Jr. Center, that was a school that's now a community center. And so he acted in a volunteer capacity as the director to make sure that it's successful. So because of all of these reasons, we want to present to him this award of distinction.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Didn't anticipate all of this. I've heard a lot. I see a lot of children. And there's two things that I will say within this 5 minutes. I won't take the 5 minutes. The first is that we've talked about Black history, but we have never made the effort to put the history in the public schools. We came here as slaves, but it was our work that got the money so that this country could survive. There's books out which tells you that the stoplights and the washing machines and all of this was done by Black people. Think of America without Black people. you couldn't survive. So why is it that the school system feel that we can have white history, we can have ancient European history, but we can't have American history, which was done by black people? Without that, there wouldn't be a history. The second thing, I started in the sector of work when I was 21. And for 63 years, I've had many jobs. The job that I thought the most about was getting our civil rights. And we got the civil rights, not just for blacks, but for all people that's in this country. But what happened was we made one mistake when we only fought for civil rights. The one thing we don't have yet is our human rights. There was a slave that was freed. And once freed, he went into a free slave state and then returned to a slave state, and they wanted to make him a slave again. So what he did is that he went to court, and he took it to court all the way to the Supreme Court. His name was Dred Scott. And they said to Dred Scott that there's no right that you have to be not a slave, okay? Not a slave. That because you came, your parents came here as cargo, not as human, but as cargo. And as cargo, the Constitution of the United States does not recognize you as human. And even to today, we are not recognized totally as human. They will kill a black person and do nothing about it. They can kill a dog and they'll put you in jail. So what we need is that we need to push, not for we need to push not for civil rights, we need to push for human rights. Make the Dred Scott, which is still on the books of the Supreme Court, make that vanish. Make it so that we get our human rights. And with that, I will leave you.
Thank you so much, Dr. All right.
You want me to be short? Can I say something?
Really short.
Okay, I will. I'll be really short.
Okay. Diane's going to just give us a brief talk about the Senior Area Center. And then after that, I know you love me, but I'm not going to come back up here for a minute. Then we're going to go into LeShawn Gamble with the Africatown Youth. Then Dr. Marcia Arunga is going to come up briefly again to talk about the Africatown education. Then we're going to have Marjan with the rites of passage inauguration. So just come back, and our relationship is good.
Okay, I'm going to be brief, but I am the director of the Central Area Senior Center, and it's a wonderful thing to be the director there because I'm in the company of great people every day, like Dr. Brooks, who's a lifetime member there, and Muriel, who comes there quite often. And the thing about the Central Area Senior Center is that we have been there for the last 51 years. In 1965, around 1965, the building that we currently occupy was the Christian Scientist Monitor folks had built it as a nursing home, and there was not a place for African American elders to gather and congregate. They were doing it in churches and different things, and so a group of city employees, African American city employees, got together, asked the city if they could perhaps purchase the building so that we would have a permanent home that we could come to on a regular basis. So for the last 51 years, it's been a gathering place for African American elders. It's been a place where people have gotten married. They come there for live music on the third Fridays of every night. We have a patio party for seafair, all kinds of things. So we've been trying to get the ownership of the building. I got married at the Central Area Senior Center, and how many people celebrated something or other there? And so the thing is, it's a part of our community. It's an institution for us. It's like our churches and the synagogues. And so we want everybody to help us to convince the mayor, who's here today, that we should have the ownership of that building. We have been trying for the last 51 years, and we're very close. We are actually in the negotiating process with the city for the ownership of the building. The city council passed a resolution on November 19th of 2018 that the executive team should work with us closely so that that can be our building and remain in our community as an institution. So I just want all of you to help me to work with the mayor and the executive team to make that a priority for our community so that we can keep it as an institution. Thank you.
Just get one. I gave him one. Take your coats off. Show your shirts. Coats off. Thank you all. Thank you all. My name is LeShawn Gamble. I am with Renaissance 21. I am a student at the University of Washington, currently studying psychology and sociology so that I can go into my doctorate for the focus of healing people of the diaspora. There is no treatment like being treated by one of your own. Healing each other through our works. That is the premise that started Renaissance 21. My focus has always been figuring out how I can celebrate and heal the people who resonate most with me, and that is my people. And so that's where this project came about with the help of Margot Jones and Wyking Garrett, so that we can create this program and potentially do more to celebrate our youth. These works are a celebration of the theme, I Am Africatown. And so each person was tasked with creating to their ability something that represented them and what they thought Africatown was. And so through this, you see the different perspectives that children have, the different mentalities that they have when it pertains to the subject matter. One of the things that I found was that we, as their elders, their parents, their community members, we have to do more. Because if we leave it to the public education system, we know what happens there. It is a system of assimilation, of destruction of the minds of people who don't fit the dominant demographic. So the purpose of this and things like this is to instill a sense of self, autonomy, and self-efficacy. Through the course of this, what I found was that just mentioning people from our history, from our past, from our present, unless it's a public figure in, what we say, in entertainment and sports, they may not know anyone else. Most of these children may not know who Langston Hughes is. We're standing on what is essentially sacred ground for us because it is named after one of our most prolific thinkers. These photos here showcase some of the moments, some of the stills. This can't even begin to capture the energy that went into this project. My goal is to continue to work with our youth so that we can build a community. I'm an ambassador. I'm a steward. And I appreciate the opportunity to work with these children to bring about growth, development, and change within the Seattle, and not only just Seattle, but Washington. There's a lot of chips and snacks all over the place. This is who we are. This is what we do. We create. We are builders. And so when you see that in the minds of children, it needs to be nourished, it needs to be supported. Because without that, I can tell you from personal experience, it took me 20 years to get to the point where I started creating art after being neglected as a child. And now I'm doing the thing I love the most. I work with children and I create. So I have the privilege of having my son, my niece, and my nephew here, but all of these children, in some component, are my charges. I have the ability to impact them in ways that, we all have. It just takes the opportunity to sit down, focus, and share the wisdom that we all have as part of Africatown. Thank you all.
Africatown, give it up. That's the future. Yes. That's why we do what we do, and we're so proud of our young people. We want to honor Black Star Line also for the Rite of Passage program. We have seen the need and we have tended to it, because that's what we do as a people. And so I want to share with you that since 2013, we found a need to come together as a people. When we saw that education was being a challenge in our community and our children were not being well educated, the success rate of finishing school was dropping severely. And we went into Horace Mann School with an interest to lean into how best our children learn. And so we started a number of, I guess I'm supposed to do that with a clicker somewhere. Thank you, got it. So we did that with a number of thinkers in Seattle. We called together educators from everywhere. We called together parents, community folk. And I just want to honor that there are community people who have been consistent for the last 5-6 years, really thinking about the best way we can learn and the best way that our children learn. Now, one of the things that we discovered was that we don't learn alone. We learn intergenerationally. And we wanted to find ways in which we could cocoon our children in the form of a village, a place where they're really nurtured and supported. And so after coming together through these series of summits, one of the things that we learned was that to create this village, we needed it to be the old, the young, and the current adults. In human development, all of these people play a role in the building of our community, our village, and our knowledge construction. And so in building the village, we understood that we were culturally centered, that we need to lean into our cultural strengths in order to really be able to learn at our best. We learned that we are a relational people. We need to know who's related to who. Where do you live and who's down the street? And how are you related to that person? And if you notice, all black people are related. We're all cousins somewhere. This is the way that we understand ourselves. We also acknowledge the ancestral past. We didn't start this. There's nothing new under the sun. We stand on the shoulders of other people. And we know that about the rituals of the circle of life, that this is a cycle and that there are ups in our community and downs in our community. There are ups in our family and downs in our family. And that in life, we are at up moments and down moments. And so we understand that that all comes into the classroom as we learn knowledge and as we impart knowledge from our years of employment and our years of building success. We can now find a way at Africatown to impart that knowledge to those behind us. We are also collective people. We don't like to just be individualistic. We need each other to thrive on, and that's the best way that we learn. So we found that in our cultural strengths, that we had many projects that just emerged, and we allowed them to emerge in organic ways. So we had such programs as the Readers Theater, village gatherings where families came together, eating and discussing important topics. We had Music Never Sleeps and the intergenerational travel to Kenya, East Africa, with young artists who went across to the continent and interacted with other artists there. We had families, 5 families that left here and went over there and interacted with people as well. We also had the Young Geniuses Project, not a project, still in action, still making it happen, becoming not only young geniuses, but entering technology in very ways that they are contenders. And also the Youth Ambassadors Program. There are many more that have begun to thrive at Africatown. As you can see, the Stolen Ones Readers Theater, not only around that was focused and featured by the Seattle Public School District, but also right at Africatown, where our children are reading and going around reading to other people. Keep It Lit, literature study. We had Garden of Eden. We still have a small garden, organic garden in the back. Children are learning to get their hands in that soil. We have the Winter Break Code Lab. We have the Young Youth Town Ambassadors. We have Black Flicks, where we show during the summer, during the breaks. We will be having more time spent with our children watching films and having dialogue. So what now in 2019? We're rolling out the Africatown Community University. Ashe. So now we may refer to that as Communiversity, where we have put the two words together. And we are focusing this year on really asking everyone to come out. We want you to be a part of the teacher and professional development. So even if you're not a professional teacher, we have teachers, a board of teachers that are prepared to teach you on a monthly basis ways that you can structure your own classes. Because we need people like Norward Brooks coming to teach classes for us. We need Muriel Softli in the classroom teaching us how to care for health and our mental wellness and our business acumen. So we want to get everybody in the classroom this year. After-school tutoring programs. Want to get more people in after-school tutoring? We need volunteers there after school. We have many feeder schools that are coming now to Africatown after school. Intergenerational learning sessions. We understand that we are intergenerational lifelong learners. We want our children to learn, but we also want our grandparents in the room. We want our parents learning. We know that the men need to know more about mechanics and nutrition. We know the women need to know more about how to start institutions and how to cook better. So we want to do all of that. So volunteers are needed, and this is a chance for all of you to gain frontline teaching skills. So please plan to give 10 to 20 hours a month. That's 10 to 20 hours that you don't have to watch TV. You could be now at Africatown, and we could have multiple activities going on, because that's who we are as a people. When we finished our work in the day and we went at night, we sat together, we thought together, we came up with ideas. That's why we built institutions in the most horrific conditions. Let us continue to do that. Ashe.
All right. Let's get to it. My name is Omari Salisbury. Here to announce the launch of the Africatown Media Network. Want to recognize Mayor Durkan here, Chief Best, the community. Welcome here to Langston Hughes today. We're going to jump right into this. I'm on the clock. All right, so let's talk about the myth of mainstream media. We hear it all the time. The mainstream media says this. The mainstream media says that. For all my elders in the room, people like the Honorable Don Mason, Dr. Arunga, you know the mainstream media has never told our story, ever. And that's why you had the rise of black media in these newspapers, the North Star, the Chicago Defender, the Baltimore African American, the Philadelphia Tribune, the Atlanta Daily World, the Ebony Magazine, Jet, I used to have the Beauty of the Week, Essence Magazine, Radio 1, BET, Mr. Fitzgerald Beaver, rest in peace, The Facts, and Chris Bennett with The Medium. Because these guys knew that we couldn't depend on the mainstream to ever tell our story. And that's why black media rose across America. But guess what? The current state of black media, we've been okay with outsourcing our narrative back to the mainstream. Believe it or not, the lack of support for our media outlets means that the majority of all the newspapers that I mentioned on the last slide are there. By the way, when people talk about what Seattle doesn't have compared to other black communities in America, you better tell them we still got 2 black newspapers and radio stations. That's what I'm talking about. Don't throw us under the bus now, right? So there's a lack of good news on the national and local fronts, a lack of positive self-images in the media, social media apathy, and come to find out the Russians are making our news for us. Man, we in a bad state. So guess what we talking about doing? We decided it's time to tell our stories and launching the Africatown Media Network with a commitment to telling better stories about our community. With the use of new media to complement existing community media platforms. What does that mean? New media to complement existing community media platforms. That means that we've got these big bookends here. We've got the facts, we've got the medium, we've got the radio, but there's a gap in new media, podcasts, streaming media, web, social media, public relations and communications. And guess what? This thing's only launched a few weeks ago, but folks, we've been busy. Telling our story, and guess what happens? Instant impact. Guess what? Our people want to hear good stuff about us. And they're consuming it. It's like, whoa, this thing here, I'll tell you, tens of thousands of video views, tens of thousands of likes, hundreds of shares across multiple platforms, podcasts, online, in person. We've got a ton of stuff going on. You see what I'm saying? And so, why am I bringing this up here? Because this is also a platform for our partners. A good partner, we talk about Langston Hughes, a community partner, right? but a platform for partners to tell your organization's good works through our platform, right? Your project, your event Afterglow. A lot of times, a lot of public stakeholders, their Afterglow is just considered a nice, good-looking report that's going to go to the boss or the board. But you know, you might want to think of Afterglow of bringing your good works to our platform and letting us tell the good works there. Who are people that might thrive on our platform? The city of Seattle. I see you here, Madam Mayor. King County, people in housing, economic development, community development, social services, and nonprofits. And I want to address something else that we did that was non-media, but we had to address the community and the impact immediately when it happened. You guys know November 1st, the line, so many people wanted to move into the Liberty Bank building that the phone lines crashed. A few minutes in, thousands of black people want to move back into the Central District. When we saw that, and we saw so many people needed housing, we launched. Because sometimes you can talk about it, but we trying to be about it. So we launched the outlet for action here was just Text Home. And what Text Home did is for people who needed resources, and you can even text right now and see if they want to get involved, they can get involved. They need housing, here you go. You need home internet, here you go. Help with tax returns, here you are. If you're a veteran who served our country, you need support, text us right here. Don't cost you nothing. We're ready to give you the resources online, on the phone. This is direct action for our community. So what's on the horizon for 2019? We're expanding our tech services, text business development. We're reaching people over the phone. We found that art really impacted people. We found that the last few months, the art that we've been producing and commissioning has impacted the community in a major way. So text art. Text give. My colleague will talk about this. This is the one we want you to text today. Don't worry, it's a free message. We ain't collecting today, but we are adding to our database. If you want to give to Africatown and the good works, give to 206-309-6324, and we'll follow up with you. We're also launching a mobile application, and later on this year, Africatown will be in the screen in your home as we launch Africatown TV on connected devices, as well as Apple TV, Roku, Chromecast, and Fire. How can you get involved? General public, keep consuming. Consume and share. That's exactly what we want you to do. Consume content, share, tell a friend. If you're a content creator in this building right here, if you're a writer, if you're a journalist, a podcaster, artist, bring your content to Africatown. Let us help you expand your reach. Let us help you get your works out there. Parents, if you got a young teen or college kid at home and then they're looking for an outlet for their work, for their writing, for their art, for things like that, send them to me. I got a place for them. We're going to put them to work. For the public sector, for our people, like I said, if you're doing good work in the public sector, make sure and put us on your email us your articles and your press releases so we can work on that. And also, for the decision makers in the room, bring your marketing and communications budget to Africatown and let us help you transform how you communicate with the community and how this community communicates with you. I'm going to get out of here. I got one more slide, and guess what? We're going to say this one all together, an acknowledgement of our elders in the room. Where's my slide? Hold on. This one's important. I'm going to just read it for you guys because this is it right here. Our mission is clear and well-defined, and we will not be denied in the cause of telling our stories and reclaiming our narrative. Thank you, Africatown.
Peace, good morning. It's a great day in Africatown. Give a hand for yourself. The amazing team that made this event happen. Our brother Curtis Calhoun, working tirelessly into the midnight hours, early morning. The team here at Langston, keeping this institution going and strong is important. I'd like to just, before I get into our remarks, have a Sankofa moment for recent ancestors that transitioned in our community that many people know. How many people know of Miss Jeanette Graham Jones. Can we give a moment of silence? And Coach Redwine as well, these are people who impacted thousands of young people in our community from Seattle to Renton, you know, and they have transitioned and joined the revered ancestors, and so we honor them in the spirit of Sankofa. We thank our elected officials, the mayor, our Senator Saldana, who I've seen, Chief Best, and the others that are here, Director of Office of Planning and Community Development, Sam Asefa, Andres Matilas, and whoever else is in the room. We thank you for being here today on this 6th annual State of Africatown, African American, African Diaspora gathering. The purpose of this event, which was originally convened by Honorable Dawn Mason as a listening post for the previous mayor to hear directly from the community rather than just having a closed room meeting and people speaking for, but to actually hear the self-determined solutions that are in motion, that are happening in our community on the ground, and what we have set forth in the previous year, what we accomplished, and what our challenges are, and what we set forth in the next year. So that's what we have this event for. We've had a little change in our schedule due to the mayor's schedule and an unfortunate funeral service that she has to attend to, but she wants to make sure she is able to respond to the state of Africatown. And Africatown Central District, black people are a part of the city of Seattle and have actually been in this area before Washington was even a state. And so that goes back to William Gross in 1882. So how many people have seen this before? Not enough. This is the plan for the future of this city. It's called Seattle 2035. And when we saw this plan, we didn't see ourselves in the future of this city. And so what we do, and I always have to remind us, we had to get busy and make our own self-determined plan and help them create some new chapters that they might have left out, you know, accidentally or whatever might have happened. And this was back in 2015, and we outlined some things, and we went out to the community and we heard, what do we need, what have we done, and what do we need to go forward? And out of that plan came this vision of our, not just a Africatown or Central Area Historic District that speaks to the history of our community being here and makes us into museum pieces, but to actually have an innovation zone, an innovation district. Innovation is where genius meets the economy. That's where creativity meets the economy, and we know our people for the span of time have been innovative, creative, and in this country in particular, we've been the most innovative because we had to make a way out of no way again and again. And it was very encouraging to hear our mayor, Jenny Durkan, say that this plan, this Africatown concept, which connects us back to our historic motherland, just like other communities are, like Chinatown, like New England, New Hampshire, New Orleans, should not only be a model for the city, but can be a model for the nation, and that she supports that. And so I always want to bring that back to the forefront, and I'm glad that she was able to be here today for her first State of Africatown. And so when we say Africatown, Africatown's a big concept. It's a movement. It's also geographic about our community here that has been here. And in building a community or building a city or building a settlement, which we've been doing for thousands of years, it takes a lot of different parts, right? Just like you have the Seattle Center, and you have, or in the Central Area Youth Association, Central Area Senior Center, Central Area Public Development Authority, Central Area School Council. These are some things that have been in our community. We have 3 initial entities that were formed to achieve the work. The first being Africatown Center for Education and Innovation. You heard Marcia Arunga speak about that, to promote education solutions for our community's needs. Africatown Central District Preservation and Development Association was created to focus on the placemaking, the identity, the culture, and the business economic development of the community. So when you see the activities going on, the festivals, the street fairs, the crosswalks, the Midtown activations, Black Dot, a co-working space, an incubator space for black businesses to grow so they can be here in the future, that falls under that aspect. And then Africatown Community Land Trust was the solution that we found to acquire and develop land. If we don't have any land, then we can't determine what is happening on the land. And so we found that to be an issue, that we were losing institutions, and we're still losing land daily, but we did create that to begin acquiring, such as the Midtown project at 23rd and Union, the 20% of that was acquired. So we don't want to lose anymore. One of the things we want to say to our community is, don't let your church sell. And if you know someone that has to sell, if they have to sell, come and talk to the Land Trust first so that we can see if we can have a win-win solution. Sankofa, looking back to go forward. This is one of the projects that recently happened at Midtown Activation at 23rd and Union. If you haven't seen it, you should go up and see it. This art done by Melvin Freeman, the fly blind guy. This young man is from our community, great, brilliant artist. He's actually going blind. He only has 20% of his sight, and he's be able to create these things so that we can see ourselves. And so these are now installed at 23rd and Union. He started with a coffee table collage photo album on right in front of Earl's, and now it's gone to be full reflections of our community. And this one on the left was to honor 30 years of Earl's. What else did we do last year? We know the root word in community is come, right? If we don't come, then we can't have unity. So we wanted to start bringing our community back, give them a reason. So many people are traumatized by what has happened, they don't even feel comfortable. They actually feel pain coming to the Central District. So we had to create ways that we can engage, and we know food and music and each other, connecting on that. So we had the Reunion on Union, where over 300 people came out to enjoy and activate and launch the activation, which happened on 23rd and Union, where we had 300 people come out and join the Paint the Block party. Was anybody a part of the Paint the Block party? Yeah, there we go. We working together. Everybody know where this is from? Wakanda. We saw the movie Black Panther, and where's our Wakanda? Right, Africatown forever. And so we said it's right here. It's Africatown. It's Black Wall Street. We just have to get involved with building it, right? We have to be involved with that. And so we had our first Africatown Design Weekend, where we brought together architects, prominent architects from across the globe into the Central District to imagine and design 4 major sites as if they were the heart of our community. And that was 23rd and Union, that was 23rd and Cherry to Jefferson, that was the Bryant Manor, 20th and Yesler, which is gonna be redeveloped, and you'll hear more about that. And also 23rd from Yesler to Jackson. And so we have to first imagine, then we design, and then we build, right? And so we have to reimagine what it means to be those builders. And so we came together and worked, and it was intergenerational, and getting our children in the practice of doing that as well. And we closed the year by celebrating 30 years of one of the most important places in our community, which is the barbershop. It's really like a sacred temple, right, where people go for connection, healing. And so we celebrated 30 years of Earl's Cuts and Styles on 23rd and Union. They will be moving across the street to the Liberty Bank development, which is here, which is being completed. You heard that when the phone lines opened, thousands of calls came in from across Wherever we've been dispersed and scattered to, people want to come where? They want to come where? Home, right? And so this first project was to show a different way of what can happen in this community and building on the works of what happened at Monica's Village Place led by Evelyn Allen. And we need 10 more of these in our community, right? We need 10 more. And not in 100 years, fast. And you see the art done by Al Doggett. There's artists that have commissioned to tell the story of the bank and the community that used the bank. We have businesses. That Brown Girl Cooks coming into the building. The building is a partnership with Capitol Hill Housing as a nonprofit developer, the Black Community Impact Alliance, and Bird Bar Place, which is formerly Centerstone, which is formerly Central Area Motivation Program. But I also want to highlight just a resurgence on union of black businesses. How many people have heard of the Postman? That's a new business opened by a young family that's from this community, Devon and Kiana Pickett, to provide postal business services for our community. Right next door to that is the exclusive boutique, which is a new apparel store. Take some of that Nordstrom and Macy's and Gap money and bring it right here to your own community on Martin Luther King and Union in a new development, and exclusive, and also cheese platters and more. And so that's on Martin Luther King and Union. And in the middle is Cortona Cafe, which has been there for years, a black-owned coffee shop. And then you go all the way up to 23rd and 24th, where you have the Liberty Bank building, and then across the street you have Midtown Plaza, which we're working to develop, and we'll hear more about that in a few seconds. And now we have the fire station, 6, former. We've been working on, you've seen this every year, you've seen this up here. And we're still looking at meter-maid vehicles parked there. That's a blight on our community. It's not bringing any culture, any commercial development, any jobs, anything, any connection. So we need to move forward with getting this transfer. We need the Central Area Senior Center to go to the Central Area Senior Center ownership. We need the fire station, as it's been designated, to come into ownership of Africatown. And while we're working those details out, we need to get occupancy, because we have about 15 to 20 businesses that are ready to go in there right now that are being displaced or need a space, a micro space, so that they can incubate, so that they can be ready to go into the new commercial space coming into the community. So Mayor Durkan, we are looking to you. We've been working with Sam Asefa and the Office of Planning and Community Development. We have a meeting scheduled next week, but we need you, we need community to make sure this happens this year. We can't have this on the screen another year and there's still meter-maid vehicles going around. What do they do? Are you happy when you see them? Or are you running out to your car, almost ready to see Chief Best? But we don't want that to happen. So let's move that forward. So this is Midtown Center. And we said, yes, we have a vision for the future development of it that will include us, that will reflect us, that will celebrate us. But let's not wait until 2, 3, 5, whatever amount of years it takes to redevelop it, when we can do something now to show what we want to have in the future. And so out of the Africatown Design Ciphers came a vision to low cost, high impact. And paint was something. We didn't have a big budget, a lot of resources, and we knew it was temporary, but it's temporary permanent, really, because it's a temporary physical installation, but a permanent expectation and vision of what's possible that's set into the minds of the community. And so this was designed by our architects, our planning, Africatown Planning and Design Committee. There's many members in here that contributed. And then you see 300 people came out to paint the block, all generations. It was beautiful. And I hope you've been by 23rd and Union. This is how it used to look, and this is not a good image. But as I said, many people say, well, why would you even waste time and resources to do something when it's going to be torn down? Well, we have to make a mark. It's called a placeholder. And so we invested in our future, right? And these are the most recent designs that were presented by Lake Union Partners, which is the private, the market rate, the developer that bought the 80%, bought the property, and we brought 20% from them. But when we made the deal, we said, well, our values of Africatown, celebrating our community, including our small businesses, having our black contractors and workers build the building, shouldn't be limited to the 20%. And so it should be to the whole block. And they agreed to that, and the MOU was put together, and that the community should be involved with the design. And these are the latest designs that they brought forth for their part of the project. Now that looks similar to what Melvin Freeman created with his art installation and some recognition. And this is not final, and the process is still going back and forth, but the point is, you may do something small that has a big impact in the future. And we need that side of the block. That's the last corner. It needs to say we were here, we are here, and we're going to be here. So people want to know what's going on with the 20% side of things, and what's going on with the Africatown Plaza. And so the project is going to be another project similar to Liberty Bank building, affordable housing with affordable commercial spaces for our businesses. And this year we received an award. The money's not in the bank, so I know people ready to say, well, can I get this, can I get that? Well, we were awarded from the Equitable Development Initiative $1 million towards the commercial space and the development of this building. The reason that's important is because the affordable housing dollars don't support the build out of the commercial space, which is probably going to be about another $4 million. So we're $1 million in, and the total project cost is projected to be around $50 million. So that $1 million, it looks like a lot of money to our community sometimes, but in reality, we have a long ways to go. But we're going to get there. We're going into the Office of Housing for the housing funding in September. So make sure you send your emails on down to the city and say, make sure this project is funded in this year. So I guess that's my slide. I wanted to talk about a couple other things that are very important. How many people have heard of the term SOIC? Seattle Opportunity Industrial Center. How many turned to Seattle Vocational Institute? Right, well that building is an institution important to our community, and we have been working to make sure that we have ownership of that. And it's a struggle, because there's another agenda that's pushing a certain ownership that's coming down from some top down. I heard it from state and different places. I don't know, because every time I go to the table with the people that are supposed to represent our community, they say they want to do what we want to do. And then when we're supposed to have another meeting, it just goes radio silence. So that doesn't stop us, though. We know we're going to get to a community-owned solution. We put in a very powerful response to the request for information, RFQ, to make this an epicenter of growth, cultural, economic development in our community going forward. We're going to have to go to Olympia, because the college made a recommendation, and the state legislature has to make the determination. And they have their agenda and who they want to give it to. And it's a usual, they want to take us back to the past. Africatown is about our future. They want to take us back to the old folks that are lost institutions and all of that. And we don't want to go that way. We want to work with our community. We included the Urban League in our proposal. We were not included in theirs. We're inclusive, okay? And so what we need is accountability and visibility to the community. What we're doing right now, we're working with Donald King, architect, and another architect. Okay, so we're here. We want you to be involved in this process. We want you involved in this process. We're working with one of the top African-American architects in the country or world that helped design our beautiful African-American museum with the University of Washington to do a planning process right now So there's going to be a community meeting. We want people that worked in the building. Dr. Norward Brooks brought me to that building to work there, and I was there for 7 years under his leadership, working with our community, that got trades and started businesses from that building to come and have a say in what the future of that building should be, and all of our young geniuses that you've seen. And we have to take our community to the next level, and we need to make this into a campus with Seattle Vocational Institute, the fire station, the Wood Construction Center, which is a brand new building. We don't see our community in there using it, learning. So these are important things, and the Masonic Temple is another important one in our community that we want to save. They are in, the building needs a lot of repairs, and they're in a tough situation. And so we're going to step forward to find a solution that they can get what they need, and the community can still have ownership of the building and develop into the future. Because that other half of the block that Vulcan is not developing, we need that back to the community. They can't have both sides of the block. So we need the other side. They got one side they're building. We need the other side in our community. So to make these things happen, it's going to take you getting involved, texting that line, so when the call to action comes out, you can be present. You can be seen, you can be heard, because it's the power of the people that's going to make the difference. And so with that, I said, so we're self-determined. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We don't need any saviors. We can save ourselves. We got our hands, we got our minds, and let's move forward. And with the support of the city, which we've been a part of, which is led by the Honorable Mayor Journey Durkan, who's coming up next to give you the response to the state of Africatown. Where are we going, and how the city can continue to play a role in that and not push our community out, which is what many of the policies have done to this point. We have to turn the direction. And we have a mayor who has an opportunity to make this city. One thing I can say about some of the things that you've seen up here are not only local, they're now global. People are looking at us from all over the country. They're asking us to come places where there's a lot more black people. The original Africatown reached out to us and said, we are so inspired. The original Africatown, established by Africans from Benin who were kidnapped and couldn't go back home, and settled a community right outside of right in Mobile, Alabama. They reached out to us. They'll be coming to Seattle to see what we're doing here so that we can connect our struggles. So with that, I'd like to bring up Mayor Durkan. We thank you for your patience. We thank you for being present for our State of Africatown. And we now turn it over to you. Thank you.
It's always so easy going after Wyking. So thank you, Wyking, for inviting me here today. Thank you to all the community for being here. Thank you, Dawn, for all you've done over so many years. I had the really good fortune of being at one of the first fundraisers when Dawn was first running for office. She had already done so much. She did it. She showed, what's that? It was at my house. I wasn't going to drop the mic on that. It was because, we know and I know one of the best things about being mayor is that the city of Seattle, when it's doing its best, is saying good afternoon. I didn't hear it back now. Good afternoon. All right, we are here not just to respond on how Africatown is doing it as mayor. In a couple weeks, will be doing the state of the city. This is the state of Africatown, and I can say you're doing amazing. You're doing amazing. And it's not, I came and I have prepared notes about, thanking all the people here who I don't want to thank, because the two words that stuck with me most that I heard at the beginning
that I want all the youth to remember when you walk out of here is Black brilliance. Black brilliance. You gotta see what Black brilliance looks like. You gotta see it with our honorees. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you. And we forgot the one really good, the words you can still say, but how do you still look so good? He has always been a person when we walked in the room, people stopped. Thank you for all you've done. I've been lucky to be in the city with you. Thank you very much. And Dr. McCoy, thank you for keeping us on track. Dr. Marcia, that book is beautiful. Thank you for my copy. But what are we here for? We're here because we talked and we learned that we need to know what happened in the past if we want to make the future better. We have to, and I agree with you, the schools have got to say what is real Black history. And I am so proud of the voters of Seattle who voted to make sure that we did more so every kid in Seattle could get free preschool. Because we know good education doesn't just start with school. Good education starts with good prenatal care, with taking care of the mother and the father and the family and the grandparents. But every one of you youth, we got to look back so that when you go forward, it's better. And we learned and we heard and we talked, someone mentioned how Blacks came here in chains. Those chains don't have to be iron. Don't let anyone tell you you can't be what you want to be, because that is the new chains. Don't tell them that you don't deserve education and every opportunity and that Africatown isn't for you. All of Seattle should be for you. And I want the youth to stand up again just for a minute. Come on, youth, stand up. And turn around. Turn around. We saw your art, but you are the art. You are the art, and everything we do must make sure that you can draw your own future. You can be what you want. You can go where you want, and this paintings you have drawn, the reflections of your hope, that's what we owe you. And that's what Africatown represents to the people in this community. It means we have to stand with you and for you. And it means that, as Wyking said, you determine your future. Nothing any mayor will say or do. It's you, your heart, your community. And can I just also say that a person who didn't speak but whose son spoke, who should be recognized, Reverend Harriet Walden. Did you hear her speak through her son or what? So I want to thank you, youth, for what you did. I want to thank you, Wyking, for giving me the honor to be here. Don, all that you have done, doctors, all the community. Your voice is heard, and I want to say one last thing. People know that the Central Area Senior Center is one of my favorite places. There is no time I have been there that I have not smiled and felt warm. And I think it is not just enough that it stay with community. We are working right now to see what we can do to actually see if there's a way to build senior housing at the community center. So when we look to the next generation, it is not just a place to gather for seniors, it's a place that they can live and remain. So thank you for all you have done. I look forward to working with you. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry that I have to get to the funeral service, but again, thank you so much. And Wyking, thank you for all you've done, Don. And to youth, one more time, let's commit ourselves to making sure this youth, 20 years from one of them is standing here with a microphone in their hand, is mayor of the city of Seattle. We can say we did it.
I think Wyking should be the next mayor of the city of Seattle. But we want to continue on with our program. Thank you so much, Mayor Durkan, for your remarks. Continuing on with our program, I want to bring up Marjan Hiru and the Black Star Line, the Rites of Passage inaugural cohort. Are they still here? Come on up.
Hello. How you all doing? Fine, thank you. Well, my name's Leja Washington,
My name is Andres Lewis Collins.
and we are here representing the Embrace Your Best Self Rite of Passage program. So I'm just going to encourage all the youth in the program to come up and stand with us.
Come on, let's bring it up.
So I'll tell you a little bit about the program before we go into our deck, but Embrace Your Best Self is a rite of passage program for Black youth ages 12 to 24, and there's 3 cohorts. There's the young adults, so that's ages 18 to 24, and then there is a male cohort from 12 to 18, and then a female cohort from 12 to 18. So we'll get started. Okay. So a quote from Malidoma Some: "What is lacking in this rich life experience is a community that observes the individual's growth and certifies that one has passed through an initiatory process." So the Embrace Your Best Self program, this process strengthens not only the youth and young adults, but also the village that holds them. It is imperative that those parenting the child are respected as their primary teachers. There we go. It is imperative that those parenting the child are respected as their primary teachers, and it is our honor to partner with them to support raising their children. So this is a program where parents are also involved. And we strive to work with others in our community to create a holistic approach that our community can embrace. Therefore, we engage in processes to strengthen the capacity for each of us to be fully present. So to facilitate this, we have developed a unique program to introduce our youth to creative, productive, human-centered global citizenry. So here's a couple of highlights. The proposal for this program was submitted in November of 2017, but the program actually kicked off in September of 2018. And since then, a couple of things that we have done is we've served our community by volunteering at the Black Child Development Institute Conference. We have, as a group, gathered and we've had a mindful meditation sit-in, overnight sit-in, where we thought about who we are, what do we want to do, what are our fears, and kind of just trying to grow together. And we've also hosted a night of Kwanzaa, which was Umoja, unity. And I look forward to our civil rights tour in the spring. So this pyramid just shows a little bit more of our process. We have community service projects to develop leadership and organizing skills. There's a strategic plan for skills, competency based on desired goals. So basically, we are recognizing our talents and we're saying, what are our goals in life? And then we have our coaches coming and helping us move forward and reach our goals. We do reading exercises, films, and monthly workshops. and a multimedia documentation for community reporting and sharing of the experience. And so as we go along, we invite the community to come and see what we've done so far and what we're going to be doing.
So throughout our journey, throughout this program, one of the things that we'll be experiencing or we'll be having to go through is a coaching experience. So throughout your coaching experience, that for us, specifically the young adults, we also have a coach that we refer to every week or each monthly for meetings. We have 3-day workshops. We have monthly sessions. We have monthly Saturday or Sunday gatherings. We have film and media study sessions, and we also have great one-on-one coaching sessions. So we invite each participant to explore their world, our world, and your world. So both your outer and also your inner. We will be learning about Africa's contributions to the world's civilizations and celebrating your culture as well. You will discover your talents, your hidden talents that you may not know that you have, and you will develop your gifts. Explore your boundaries, learning how to go outside of your comfort zone, while also claiming your historical presence. You will sit and meet with elders while gaining lots of wisdom, and learn how to restore and balance and reclaim the love that you have for yourself and that you deserve. So there will also be, such as the sit-in that we had, there will be sessions with rest and release and meditation. You will be learning how to let go of your fears, and you will learn to heal your heart, because we all have had pain. And we'll learn to stay open to new opportunities and possibilities, such as traveling and just job opportunities that might come along. And it'll help you envision your future, while also redefining your friendships with your friends, family, and your community. And you will learn how to uniquely be you. And then you'll be young, black, and woke. But also throughout your process, you'll be writing a narrative, reclaiming your inventiveness, learn how to rock the marketplace in your own way, learn to perform, learn to engage with you, your friends, and your community, learn how to solve problems, while also teaching others in your community and serving, and learn how to lead the future, your own future, and grow as a whole, inner and outer. And this was us as our hosting for the first night of Emoja at Kwanzaa night. And yeah, we have a pretty larger group. Oh, but yeah, thank you guys for coming. Oh, thank you guys for everything and for seeing EYBS. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As Black Star Line takes their seat, I want to ask Africatown youth ambassadors to come forward. Kashayla Rodgers and Africatown youth ambassador.
Thank you, Dr. McCoy. My name is Cashayla Rodgers. I am honored to be able to speak in front of you all today. It is overwhelming to be around such a diverse group of people who are just as committed as I to creating change. Not only do I feel honored, but I feel protected by the village that surrounds me. I want to highlight a point in my life where I would fight with my younger brother all the time. Fighting is not my preference, but if you know Chance, he can really fight, and he would make me so mad How can this 5-year-old little boy treat me like this in my own home? I didn't know it then, but this was the testament to my brother's unwavering strength that he would need to fight racism. It wasn't until he started going to school that I felt the need to help him fight. Children as young as 7 years old can detect discrimination aimed at them. And in just 10 years of life, my brother had experienced so many different forms of mental and physical abuse in schools that he had a right to be protected in. He was suspended and denied the right to an education in kindergarten and first grade, branded as a negative statistic. I saw chances light dimmed. The curiosity and excitement for learning that he had was concealed by mistreatment and abuse. His energetic spirit was labeled an inconvenience, a hindrance. I knew that I couldn't continue to aid in tearing down my brother. This story is not unique to my family. This is the reality for many Black families. Black students are suspended and expelled at a rate 3 times greater than that of white students, in grades as early as preschool. Marking a Black child with the title of troublemaker follows them throughout their time in school until they are forced out or forced in to the prison system. My experience was having to bear witness to the impact of this system firsthand, one that devalues people that look like us, like me. I had to see students that I had started school with, students who I had called friends, slowly disappear from my classes. I experienced a curriculum that didn't reflect the greatness, the struggle, or resilience of the people before me. I experienced a school that did not reflect who I was. Students with a strong sense of racial identity are more resilient to the harms of discrimination. I found the power to speak out against injustice by finding spaces where my Blackness would be utilized, nurtured, and developed. This is the vision of ACEI, Africatown Center for Education and Innovation. Africatown is the link between students and identity. By being a part of Africatown Youth Ambassadors, I am helping to build the village by providing support and resources for other youth in my community, just as was done for me. Africatown Youth Ambassadors acknowledges and celebrates student achievement by planning our rite of passage event, Black Graduation. And I ask, on behalf of the next cohort in the class of 2019, that you support us by encouraging other young people in need to join Youth Ambassadors, but also that you help us grow so that we may give out scholarships to the next group of young people that they may pursue their dreams. As a community, we must continue to lay the foundation that empowers students to flourish and reach their full potential. Thank you.
Thank you so much, so much. I'm so proud to be part of this community. Our next speaker is Kwadwo Oware, from representing the Washington Coalition of African Leaders. I didn't mess your name up too bad, did I? Oh, I got it right. All right. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Kwadwo Oware, the president of the Washington State Coalition of African Community Leaders, and I have Marcia here with me, who is our general secretary. We want to thank Africatown for this very moment. It's a great one. It's my first time, so I'm like, wow, this is great. I feel very honored to be here and see all of you, especially the African American community here in Seattle. Because for most of us, we're a bit disconnected. But it's good we're all coming together. It's a good sign, and we have to keep moving. Yep. So as the name says for itself, we are from the African community here in Seattle and Washington as a whole. And so what made us, come together to form this coalition basically stemmed from some common issues, some challenges that are shared among the African communities here in Seattle and the state of Washington as a whole. Some of these basically runs around leadership, education, youth employment, the generation gap, first African generations and, second, third, you name it. We're talking of economic empowerment, cultural heritage. Today I'm proud I have my own African word, and people were asking me, I felt proud of it. I'm like, wow, I didn't know this has an effect. But these are the little things that make a difference. We're talking about the healthcare system for most of we Africans who are here in the state. How do people navigate through it? The same has to do with immigration. It's rather unfortunate the mayor has left, but the good thing is, at least from my perspective, she increased the budget for the Office of the Immigration and Refugee for the City of Seattle Council. So it's very important. These are some of the things that are shared among the African communities. When we're talking about African communities, the most key ones that always come in mind are the Ethiopian community, the Somali community, the Eritrean community. But bear with me, there are more than that. There are more than that. My own Ghanaian community is just around. There's the Nigerian, there's the Somali, there's the Gambian, there's the Zimbabwean, there's the South African, you name it. There's a whole lot. So it's not just about the Ethiopian, it's not just about the Eritrean, it's not just about the Somali. And as such, we all decided to come together to form a coalition with one voice to solve the issues and challenges that we are facing. And most of these are also related as to Africatown is also working on some of these issues. So it's about time we all work together, join forces. That is the only thing that we can do to help ourselves. So basically, out of these challenges, our coalition is very young. So it was formed in 2016, officially registered in 2017. Up to today, we have about 70 members from 22 African countries. And bear with me, if you don't have a country in Africa, identify one and get connected. And I was proud of the lady, the nurse. You were in Africa. I mean, this is good. Once you have the time and you can get engaged, do it. Get connected. And don't feel disconnected. Home is home. No matter what, once we leave and we walk outside, we are all seen as one. So it's about time you get connected. If you can, do it. So from that, we have this mission as, supporting the African communities here in Washington State by providing a platform. And that means this platform is a means of sharing resources and information, and also to enable collaboration between African communities. We don't want a situation where Ethiopians are disconnected from Somali, from Ghanaians, and so on. We have the same common issues. We got to come together. And by providing such a platform as envisioned, having an African hub, which I'm seeing Africatown is going in this direction. This is where everyone can go to, the go-to place when you have any issue, where you see your brother, you feel very comfortable to share your issue with and try to get, help and move on. And this is what we want. And so based on this, we're also trying to be the voice of the African immigrant here in the state of Washington. In every case, in every scenario. Unfortunately, one of our key members passed away in a tragic accident. Amina Ahmed, as most of you might have heard on the news, who used to be a council member of CETAC. She was an avid advocate of African and African Americans coming together. Her organization, Partner in Employment, still lives. Her legacy still lives, and we will continue to live her legacy. May her soul rest in peace. So what have we done since 2016? 2017, we gathered all the African community leaders for the first summit to try and stress out the need of coming together and working together as one. Based on that, we had a second summit just this year. We invited Africatown, and it was good. Talking about still leadership, talking about healthcare, talking about civic engagement. And this is one legacy that we had seen from Amina Ahmed to continue. And for that, for 2019, what we are looking to do is basically continue to work with our working committees. We have working committees across all the issues that we've identified as very key to us. In addition to that, we are also bringing in Africans within corporate America. So we have Africans at Microsoft, Africans at Boeing, Africans at Amazon, we have Africans at T-Mobile. These people are disconnected. I'm one of them. I'm now trying to get connected to my community. So I'm trying to bring together as well all the Africans in corporate America that we all sit down and help our community. Because when we walk outside, we are all one. And this is what we want to see. So for this, we'll continue to partner with other organizations who are working on the same issues affecting us. A classic example being Africatown, and we'll continue to do that with other agencies and government offices. We are also going to meet with the Governor's Poverty Reduction Working Group to highlight the key issues that are affecting the African communities, being housing, being it affordable housing, education, you name it. As well, engage civically for Africans to know they have voting rights, they have citizenship. They need to exercise this and engage themselves in the society, which is a new society for us all, but we are also here to make an impact, as our predecessors have done and will continue to do. Thank you very much. Get engaged if you want. These are the membership. This is our website. I'll be around. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have Miss Cynthia Winters. We're almost done, and then we get to eat. Cynthia Winters is coming forward to talk to us about Heal to Rebuild. Watch it. We send up signs. We got signs and stuff. No. Come on. We got signs telling you about time.
Oh, you don't have to worry about it. I'll be done quickly. Good morning, afternoon rather. I'm standing in for Rishide Awadola. She had a mishap this morning trying to get prepared to come. And so she asked me at the last hour to speak in her behalf for the presentation. Can you guys hear me? Okay. We're going to talk about replanting our roots and mental health. One of the things, and I know in the African American community, we kind of shy away from and don't really talk about the wellness that we need mentally. And so we're going to look at how gentrification, trauma, and other things that impact us nationally and locally affects our mental wellness. So what is behavioral health? We're going to look at the conceptual framework for understanding behavioral health indicators can be viewed along a continuum ranging from less severe to more severe. It may cause hospitalizations, severe mental illness, or schizophrenia. And the continuum of behavioral health, although mental distress also causes other ailments that we need to maybe see providers to address the mental illness one may be facing. So this is a clinical approach. The clinical approach looks at the side effects and then labels people with bipolar, schizophrenia, codependent, whereas the African-centered, Institute of African-Centered Thought looks at the holistic approach, and it's based on African-centered thought that considers the mental, the physical, and the spiritual basis of the dysfunction, not the disorder. So on Thursdays, every fourth Thursday of every month from 7 to 9 at Africatown on Alaska, there are healing circles. We invite you to come. It's from 7 to 9. We're focusing right now on how gentrification has impacted our mental health and the trauma and the stress that gentrification has caused on the community and our people. I pretty much host that group, and I would also like to invite you all to come. And next Saturday, from 1 to 4 at Africatown ACEI on 3100 South Alaska Street, we will be having a wellness network. We're looking for mental health providers that are willing to come and be a part of the Healing Center that's projected to come into effect in 2020. So I'd like to invite you all to come next Saturday from 1 to 4, Africatown ACEI. And that's it.
She told the truth about being short. I next want to bring up Troy Dawson. And Troy was going to be followed by Evelyn Allen. And then we can go eat.
All right. I have a challenge to get a lot of information to you in about 5 minutes. Okay, but I say 12 because we're talking about finance and we're talking about money. People really want details when you're talking about money. They don't want like half-baked answers, so I'm trying to give you as much as you can. But I'm here on behalf of an initiative called the Direct Impact Dollars. Outstanding, you got the slide there. Okay, and first of all, I just want to say thank you so much to Wyking and to Curtis and to a couple of other partners that have come along to us, but I will come back to that. But thank you guys so much. You've run a well-run day. Thank you. So my name is Troy Dawson. I'm the owner of a financial service company. I've owned the business for over 24 years, but I'm not going to talk about my business. I'm going to talk about cooperative economics. So I'm going to try to do this and make sure I can hear you and see what's coming up next here. All right. There are 3 other members of our team who couldn't be here, so I'm also going to present in their lieu. We may have heard of some of them. Theo Martin, who's the owner of Island Soul. Dabrina Jackson Gandy, who's a national best-selling author, wrote 3 books. And Devin Stubblefield, who is also a national trainer, a trainer of trainers, and has a business, My Money Academy and Faith Finances. Again, I'm going to try to condense a lot of information in about as close as I can to 5 minutes, so I'm therefore going to look to prepared notes here. So here we go. Okay. I met a gentleman about 7 years ago when he was 102. And due to copyright laws and stuff like that, I didn't get enough time to get a picture that's not copyright infringement and everything, because I really would have liked to have seen a picture. But you can look up his name. His name was Bishop Otis Clark. Okay. And I became aware of the Tulsa race riots. And I became aware of, again, we're talking about history that I hadn't ever heard about. So definitely there's a need to include history that I hadn't heard about until I was very grown. But anyway, how many of us have heard about Black Wall Street? A show of hands? All right. Not all of us, but some of us. Okay, but from that time that I heard about it, I began a quest. If they did it in around 1921, we can do it again. We can do it again. Let's not have an excuse about, no, we don't all live in the central area. Some of us live in Renton and Federal Way and Algona Pacific. Let's take away the excuses, because that's what direct impact dollars is about. Let's take away the excuses, and that's one of the things that we did. So we're going to talk about economics, and I better speed this up. Okay, so we're taking away the excuses. We're not going to be bound by geographic differences. So let's say this. Please say this. Cooperative economics, no geographic limitations. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, well, I've been on this journey and thinking about it, and so I'm so glad to be here. But before talking about cooperative economics, we have to kind of substantiate the problem. So here we go. The problems are really substantial. I mean, they're like at an epic level, and the only way I could provide substantial information is on a residential basis, a personal basis, but I'm going to move towards talking about commercial credit because where are our black businesses? I moved here in 1975, and there are a lot of businesses that were but don't exist. We can name them. I won't name all of them, but Kingfish Cafe and Helen's and Thompson's Point of View and Eddie Cotton's, and the list goes on. It's a long list. It's over a dozen. But let's go on, and I'm going to introduce the problem from a personal relationship that all of us can relate to, home mortgages and that type of thing. Here we go. So a picture represents 1,000 words, so we can review our past, and we're talking about inequality and access to capital or the lack of access to capital. Remember, I'm going to try to go quickly to bring it down closer to 5 minutes as much as possible. But we're going to look at the United States present and regionally, so we're going to bring it into Seattle. But something was out there on the internet, and we can research this thing. February 26th, economic policy. No progress for blacks on home ownership, unemployment, and incarceration in 50 years. Okay, home ownership rates are basically the same as 1968. Incarceration rates. And the last one, the wealth gap between black and white families has more than tripled. Okay, but now we're going to talk about building black wealth through home ownership. Okay, and again, this is a very recent statistics. This is brought to you in 2018. Total mortgages, 8.3 million. How many of them are our Caucasian counterparts? How many of them are black? And then, wow, black approval rates, 45%. And then black denial rates, 31% compared to 17. Okay, total population in Seattle, I said I'm gonna go specific, 724,000. Okay, and now we're gonna get into percentages and numbers, but 65%, and then look at our numbers, okay? Let's look at total mortgages. And now I'm not gonna I may skip the slide. I'm not just gonna say Seattle, because now we moved into Federal Way, and we moved into Renton and other places. Total mortgages, 3,900. How many mortgages got approved, people? Approved. But the number for us, 258. Tacoma, I didn't want to leave us out. I didn't want to just stay King County, because we live down there too. 8,700, and us only 509. Okay, so I think I've substantiated the problem. If we're having access to capital on a personal basis, access to homes, do you think the problem's any different? Access to capital, to commercial credit? No, it's exactly the same, if not worse. So it's been on my heart for a long time. There's a whole lot within me I'm really holding back. But I wanted to make sure you had some substantiated figures before we talk about the solution. A solution. So cooperative economics, no geographic limitations, okay? Although we're not living in the same city, okay, we can still come together digitally. We can pool our resources digitally. So let's not make that excuse because we're not all here, okay? Let's do what we can. And I'm gonna share with you what Direct Impact Dollars has done, and we accomplished this in 5 months with 50 people. Okay, so I want to thank those who, they know who they are, who did participate in this, and I want to make a quick note so I make sure that I don't forget, when you're dealing with folks and money, white or black, we need to make sure it's legit, right? And so we want to make sure it's legal, that and it's done right. So we're working with an established 501c3, okay? So I better continue really fast. So here is what you need to see. This is what has not what's gonna happen, but what has already happened. Sometime at a later date in February, in conjunction with Black History Month, we're going to award 6 to 8 black businesses who have been who are registered with the state. Remember I said it's gotta be legal and they gotta really exist, okay? But they've been in business for at least 1 year. we're going to award 6 to 8 black businesses $2,500 to $3,500 in a no-interest award. So understand the traditional way. Understand the traditional way of how people get money is they receive $2,500. The bank is expecting repayment of terms of $3,700. That is not so for the Direct Impact Dollars Initiative, which I may refer to as the DID, because we did do it. We've already accomplished phase 1, okay? But in conjunction with Black History Month, we're gonna make those awards, okay? But the way it worked, 50 people decided to contribute $350. That came to about $17,500, and Banner Bank liked how well we structured this, that Banner Bank, who I need to recognize, decided to contribute, okay? And has already made a contribution towards 2019. So those monies are getting ready to go out. We're gonna build capacity, help businesses do more of what they had been doing. I wanna thank you very much for listening. You can check out more information on YouTube and Facebook. And once again, thank you for your time.
I'm so glad I didn't have to do the whole dance. Thank you so much. Our final speaker is Evelyn Allen. A lot of the folks who talk today will be around during our reception. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Especially the money people. Come on.
This is a hard position to be in, the last speaker. So I am going to be fast because some of the work that we do, of course, has already been talked about with Africatown. But I was thinking also that I might need to practice some of the other skills of Black community, and that's singing and dancing. Although I'll save you. Not today. I did follow the right person, though, because the Black Community Impact Alliance is about creating wealth for Black families in the Black community, and we do that through asset acquisition and also through resource investment. And what we're talking about assets, we're talking about business, we're talking about affordable housing, we're also talking about home ownership, and as Wyking said, we're trying to encourage our churches to be sure that they don't sell their property, let us know. We're also encouraging Black families who are still here to please don't sell your properties. Or sell it to Black people. So the Black Community Impact Alliance, as I say, is about creating wealth and resources, but we are also about coming together. We have an organization that is comprised of a Planning and Strategy Advisory Committee, as well as an Action Committee. We're also at many tables that are about getting assets and resources, and this is the important slide that I wanted to share with you because I think this is important information for you to know that what's going on in your community. So the Black Community Impact Alliance is also a part of the Central Area Collaborative, and the Central Area Collaborative over the last year has worked to create the Central Area Design Review Guidelines. But in addition to that, we've also developed the Central Area Design Review Board. That means that anybody doing construction, any developer needs to come to us, and they also need to use those design guidelines when they're designing their buildings. So we also are developing what's called an eco-district certification process, and that's to manage district scale processes in progress. We have also created and hired a community navigator position that has helped small businesses with direct assistance and technical assistance. This position is to coordinate between all of the development that's going on with SDOT and with others to make sure our businesses are impacted as less as possible. We provide funding for organizations that are providing that business technical assistance. The Central Area Collaborative has also developed a Central Area Business Assisted Fund. This is also additional money for our businesses to use as we're developing. The other important thing is that we have been a part of the Racial and Social Equity Task Force. We have developed and supported the development of the Equitable Development Initiative Fund. This is real money. As you heard, Wyking has gotten $1 million from this fund in order to build his project. We are actively advocating for continuing funding sources for the EDI. And then we also are still supporting the fire station to be our business innovation center. Another important statewide organization that we're a part of that's getting real money is the Communities of Concern Commission. It's statewide. This year we've got $1 million that went to organizations that are ethnically led and that are typically excluded from resources. Fire station we're part of, you heard about. Liberty Bank, we were the original, one of the original organizations that did the MOU to bring that property back to the Black community. You heard about the phone crashes when we opened it up November 1. The ribbon cutting is planned for late March, so please put that on your calendar. And we were very successful in getting a majority or a lot of women and minority businesses as well as Black contractors with jobs and money as a part of this project. You can be a voice, you can be a part. As you heard before, be active. Come to our website, help us be what we need to be here in the Black community, and that's about getting real money, real dollars, real assets. So instead of singing and dancing for you, I'm going to ask Dr. McCoy to come up and close out. And thank you so much for being here.
This was such a fabulous, fabulous time and a fabulous experience. This is the 6th time this has happened, the 6th year. I hope that you will pay attention to the world and know and prepare to be here for the 7th. It happens always the Saturday before Martin Luther King's real birthday, not the one they gave us, but always. So as you leave this place, know that you are strong and powerful. Wyking is going to come up. I'm done. I wish you God's peace, God's power, and God's passion as you go forth in safety. Blessings to you.
Can we please give a hand for Dr. McCoy? She went above and beyond today, and she's been with us. We appreciate you. There were a couple things that weren't said, due to the accommodating the mayor's change in schedule. We want to make sure that you know that we need Black businesses for the commercial space. There is a lot of commercial space coming online at 23rd and Union and 23rd and Jackson. Remember, the whole Pan-Asian community, Chinatown, Japantown, Little Saigon, does not live in what is called Chinatown International District, right? They live all over the county, but that's still their cultural and economic hub and root in Seattle. And Seattle is still the economic center of this region. So we should maintain a piece of that. And it starts with our commerce. So we need our Black businesses, and we're ready to work with them. They got about 2 years to get ready, to be incubated, to build their marketing. We have expert people in our community that come to Black Dot and do presentations to help tighten up everything, because we want these businesses to grow. They say 98% of African-American business are single owner operated. And if they just hire one person, it would make a significant dent in Black unemployment. So we can do this for ourselves. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that Africatown is locally rooted, but it's globally connected, okay, to our diaspora. Last year, the day after the State of Africatown, I had the opportunity to make my first trip to Ghana, West Africa. And I was able to go there and follow my father, who's here, Omari Tahir Garrett, who is laid the groundwork for a lot of the work that is happening and what we have in our community, and I want to recognize that. But there's a brother by the name of Akili Seka. He's from this community, graduated from Garfield High School, and he relocated, repatriated his family there and started a school called the People's School for Positive Education, and it's rooted in the teachings of Kwame Nkrumah, Pan-Africanism, right? And Kwame Nkrumah said, until every African country is free, it doesn't matter if one has independence, right? And so his school is a very powerful school. I had 5th graders quizzing me about what's my political ideology. Okay, they could lecture and debate with, I think, a lot of high school and college students in this country. So that's a school that deserves our support, and we're proud to be connected and go and continue to support. In next month, we'll have the first trip of one of our youth ambassadors going over to Africatown. Omari Garrett, who is my son, the next generation, will be going to establish that because we want our children to be global. And this is the year, I don't know if you saw, but the president of Ghana, they announced 2019 as 400 years marking from 1619 when they say the first ships came to Jamestown, Virginia, as the year of return. So they're inviting, encouraging, and asking us to come back and reconnect. We don't have to be stuck in any one place. I know some people, I've never been to Africa, and I ain't African, and I don't know this, and I don't know that. But I'm telling you how many times I had to go, that ain't such and such. I'm 3,000 miles away. So you're there, and they're here, and we need to bridge that gap. And so I just want to also say that. Make your trip if you can't go in 2019. We'll be working to help people go in 2020. And we definitely want all of these young people, by the time they graduate and go to college, to have the opportunity to get a global perspective by going to Ghana or going to somewhere in the diaspora. Kenya, the Arunga clan is very strong in Kenya. So we're connected. We heard the Johnson clan is connected. Okay, all right, we're making those connections. That's what Africatown is about. Wherever we are is who we are. So the last thing is all of the great things that you saw today, heard today, the DID initiative. People, they say we can't put our money together. Well, we did put our money together. I put my money in that pool, and the next time we're gonna just grow it, but we just wanna show. But we wanna build our community base. A lot of the things that you saw up here, we got some grant money from a Department of Neighborhoods matching fund for the Midtown. We got some county money to do a rebuilding, replanting roots, rebuilding community partnership with significant organizations. But we want to come to our community. We want to get 1,000 people that are willing to give $5 a month. And you saw Brother Omari show you the technology that's going to make it easy for you to just give $5 a month to start, right? We can do that. And then you'll be vested. You'll know what's going on. You'll be a citizen, right? Because if you're a citizen, you got to pay some taxes to make sure things happen. We can't expect others to do for us what we won't do for ourselves, right? So we want to start setting that tone and know that all of this work will not continue if you don't put your time and energy into it. It won't grow, it won't continue. So we need you to really stand up and take your place. Let's not be subjects anymore, subject to what everyone else is doing. Let's really take command of making our mark and making our place in this city, in this world, and show our young people that that's possible. It's not what others are doing to us, it's what we're going to do for ourselves. So let's self-determine our future. We imagine it, we plan the work, and we work the plan. So this year, we're really working on our Africatown Community Development Master Plan. All these sites, how we gonna keep them? All these businesses, how we gonna grow them? All these genius babies, how we gonna educate and nurture their genius? That's what we're striving to do, and we can't do it without you. So please get involved. Make sure you're present, accountable, and setting the tone for the next generation. Thank you.